I want to dive deeper into that story a little bit. If you want to share some of the feelings and the things that you went through when you were going through this process with your daughter and what was going through your mind, how did you come out of it? I'd love to hear that side of the story.
Yeah, so when she was initially diagnosed with autism at the age of like three and a quarter, I was working in biotechnology and, I had science background, but I really didn't understand a lot about autism. What I could see was some of the symptoms that she was exhibiting that seemed very uncalm in her body. Just, throwing tantrums for hours. Like, I mean, and it wasn't like your normal kind of, toddler tantrums. It was blood curdling screams for like up to 4 hours where she would be kind of looping. I want this. I don't want this. I want this. I don't want this. Anybody, any parent, any family member, sibling who's ever gone through this, especially the person who's, obviously afflicted with the autism, it's just not a calm, centering feeling. So as a mother, my heart was just bleeding. Like, what can I do for my child? Like, well, how can I improve her quality of life? The scientist in me was like, what is in my power to start researching and just started to look into gut brain connection. I really was like looking at her foods, like, this is not a child who's eating healthy yet. Anytime I try to put broccoli on her plate, it was a battle, blood curdling screams for hours. It was as if I assaulted her by trying to give her broccoli. And so I didn't know, what's the battle worth fighting? And so I started to say, okay, I'm going to take this battle on with that. The gut brain connection, the nutrients are what's going to help heal cells if there's some sort of inflammatory chronic condition. And she had a lot of chronic inflammatory symptoms, puffy face, redness, kind of the bumps on the skin. It just ease lots of allergies, so she had a lot of inflammatory symptoms that made me think, okay, can we improve inflammation through eating better foods? And so I started to just start, diving into it. And so initially I took out gluten, I took out casein because that was a lot in the autism community at the time. And this is back in like 2009. And I saw some improvements. And so as a protein chemist, I just started diving deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's where I came upon glutamate, so MSG or glutamate are, and, synonymous in the foods. And I saw that it was highly associated with inflammation. It induces inflammation because it's a neurotransmitter. It actually excites the neurons in the nervous system for the fear, fawn response. And if you think about or ever, have been with somebody with autism, they're very vulnerable to that fight, flight, fear, fawn response. A lot of the neurodivergent groups are not just autism, but like ADHD, OCD, ODD, whatever acronym, anxiety, panic attacks. They're very vulnerable to that fight, flight, fear, fawn response. So when I went and started to research glutamate association with these conditions, I was like, wow, okay, let me try this. And so that was my why. I deep dove to say, okay, what foods have glutamate as part of the processing? Of course, my, PhD in protein chemistry helped tremendously. And it was a game changer, a game changer. Within 1 week of me going hardcore, taking out glutamate sources that I identified based on Google patents on foods and my protein chemistry background, unbelievable game changer where I could see the channels, the learning channels, more aware in her body, more calm. It just, she didn't catch up with speech in that first week, but I could see that the learning channels for speech were opened up. She was trying to communicate more. She started to ask why questions for the first time in her life. And now we're at, about three and a half, three and three quarter age. And most kids are asking questions by that age with language development. So I could tell I was on the right track, and I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. So my why was really to try to help my child, and I started to do the same foods for myself so she wouldn't feel isolated. It was a game changer for me. 40 years of pollen allergies went away. I had, so much lower of an inflammatory load. I couldn't breathe through my nose often at sleeping because I was so congested. Gone. So it was a game changer for me too. But my why was to improve the health of my daughter, which just helped the whole family.
That's awesome. And how long did it take for the first day you trying to figure out like, hey, what exactly is it that's causing that till you landed on glutamate?
Yeah, I'd say it was 6 months because I started with, like, removing gluten, which is the protein associated with, like wheat and barley, casein, which is the class of proteins found in dairy, um, and recommended by the medical fields like applied behavioral analysis, also known as ABA, sound therapy, speech therapy. So there was so many other things going on at the same time, getting her into special needs school, seeing psychologists and such. And so so there was a lot of other things going on. So 6 months from the time that I first started foods, started getting smoothies in, to the point where I identified glutamate as potentially being a factor. And then once I, identified glutamate, everything else fell off I mean, the speech therapy, special needs school she got kicked out of, everything else was falling off. I mean, that was what was really important for her brain.
What tips do you have for people who are maybe going through the same or some similar experience or something they don't even know what's happening because of maybe their gut health or
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, so I mean, that's why I wrote the book because I was like, I wanted people to have a guide, the why in there, really trying to resonate with people who are afflicted with chronic inflammatory conditions. It's not just autism, it could be cancer, it could be Alzheimer's, it could be chronic pain. Um, or even dealing with obesity. It's just, really trying to resonate with the masses that we need to be evaluating and thinking about what we're eating. So the book is called Fat, Stressed, and Sick: MSG Processed Foods in America's Health Crisis. And the last chapter, I have a lot of guides about how to go through your kitchen, your refrigerators, your pantry items. But the tip, number one tip is we are what we eat, and really think about what we're eating. And so if you can't identify the ingredients or really don't know why it's in there. So yesterday I walked into a grocery store and and I'm in like hippie Santa Cruz area where there's a lot of good, health food stores. So this was one of those good health food stores. And I'm like, hey, I'm just looking for a quick healthy snack here. And he was like, oh, I've got this popcorn with nutritional yeast. And I go, "Oh, that's loaded with MSG." And he's like, "Oh, no, it's not." And I said, "Oh, yes, it is." And I said, they take these yeast, they culture them, they lyse the yeast cells to uh, deplete the yeast of its contents, and a lot of that is glutamate. That's why it tastes so yummy on popcorn. And he's like, "Oh, I could eat the whole bag of that." And so, he's kind of debating me. So I take every opportunity I can, but it's like really, questioning like what is nutritional yeast. Like most people are thinking it's nutritional, and so I have a whole list in my book of these various ingredients where MSG is disguised. It's not labeled as MSG in the food supply. Um, so eating all whole foods is an incredibly first step where it's the fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, happy meats before or happy animals before they end up on our plate. So wild caught, pasture raised. Um, what's another one? Pasture raised, grass fed. Those are some of the better quality of the meat sources. And then you're assembling these whole foods, herbs and spices. And that's a huge tip, is that's where a lot of these MSG sources are coming in, is through the processed food industry. They're not after health for us at all. They want money, and they
Yeah,
want to keep you coming back. And so MSG keeps you coming back because it's so highly addicting.
it is, right? It's almost like sugar.
Yeah. Well, it's just as addicting as sugar, and that's where, I'm trying to raise awareness because many people know sugar is very addicting. What they don't know is the nutritional yeast in the popcorn is also having you come back. That's not a sweetness, that's a savoriness that they've hijacked your taste receptors on the umami for the MSG.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. One more thing I want to ask you on these tips that we are at. Um, Apart from your book, I know it's very hard to find good reading material to get yourself educated. And what sources do you recommend people go to if they want to find more about this, or they're gonna go find more about the topic in general, and what things can they search and where can they go to find more information that's actually trusted and is backed up by maybe some studies.
Yeah, so the book does have 1,000 references in there. So as a scientist, I'm trying to back these up with studies, population studies, animal studies, all sorts of different, studies showing the effects of glutamate on the body associated with inflammation, autism, all sorts of other chronic illnesses, even cancer. So Fat, Stressed, and Sick, MSG, Processed Foods, and America's Health Crisis definitely has the Bible of the glutamate. Russell Blaylock is another, person, MD. He wrote The Taste That Kills, or yeah, Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills. And that was written and published back in the 90s, right? So this is not new information. And Russell Blaylock actually tried to come up with like blogs and working with the community with late onset inflammatory conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. He's also, uh, touts the whole association of glutamate with autism. So his book also, contains those references. And if you have that inquiry mind and you go on to Google Scholar and type in the keywords glutamate and whatever condition you might be researching, obesity, autism, Alzheimer's, and put glutamate and autism, you'll see all of the scientifically peer-reviewed articles with these associations. Because glutamate is in our body naturally, the issue is when it's at elevated levels, it sends a stress response, that fight, flight, fear, fawn response. Um, with autism, for example, that what we call neurodivergent is really a class of where the brain neurons are more neurologically wired with glutamate neuron, capabilities of exciting those neurons. So neurodivergent meaning there's more glutamate receptors in the brain that are almost prone to that, fight, flight, fear, fawn, ready to take off. And so that makes that person, group of people, much more vulnerable to glutamate in the foods, much more vulnerable to stresses. And it's good to know your own body. Good to know if you're in that category. If you're a chill Bill, no worries, but if you're not, you want to listen to your body.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that with us today. I have one more question for you before we end today's segment, Katie. Is seeing where you are at right now with your vision, and if you could see the future, where you're taking this, where you see your vision going in the future.
I would absolutely love to be on like lecture panels, even on TV, where we're really raising the consciousness of our society through better choices, better thought choices, better eating choices, uh, size choices, lifestyle choices, and we're raising the beauty and vibrational frequency of the entire humanity through better lifestyle practices. And I would love to be part of that revolution.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.